A wild day of oh no's. Tennessee, oh no, not again. And Notre Dame, oh no, what happened? And what happened to South Carolina? Vanderbilt happened.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in this, the greatest, craziest sport on planet Earth. Is Notre Dame season over? Little bit. Oh, Vandy's real, because that's what we all expected. Like, you know what? Vanderbilt looks good. They deserve their flowers. This episode brought to you by our friends at Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail at Mazda because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward Mazda Move and Be Move. Tennessee, oh no. Oh no, the Vols. I had several reasons laid out on Tuesday as to why Tennessee should win the game, why they could win the game. They had every opportunity to. But I ultimately came back to pick Georgia in this spot in basically the exact fashion it played out, just higher scoring. I don't know where the defenses went in the SEC. They don't seem to exist. Ole Miss and Arkansas, no defense. Defense is not being played consistently out there. And, boy, there wasn't a lot of defense early on in this game either. But what a football game it was in Knoxville. Now, the unfortunate part for Tennessee is what led me to pick the game the way I did is kind of what came to fruition. The it factor, this is one of those teams, one of those games that even though you have a chance, they were talking about on the broadcast. I bet Tennessee fans were sick of hearing on the broadcast about how many times they've gotten off to a hot start against Georgia and then wound up losing the game because they didn't play a full 4 quarters. Tennessee played a full 3 quarters. Tennessee played 3.5 quarters. Tennessee played 3 8/10 of a quarter. They just did not play a full 4 quarters. On your home field, your defense has a chance for a statement sequence, and they can't come through. Not only does Gunnar Stockton, who had his coming out party in this game, march right down the field, a dime of a throw for that touchdown, by the way. You give up the 2-point conversion on an easy pitch and catch. Remember in the offseason when Georgia went out and made some moves, and one of them was getting Zachariah Branch from USC, who hadn't fully worked out? Where would Georgia have been without him in this game? The answer is probably holding a loss. Not only did he have a touchdown and a 2-point conversion, but suddenly the Georgia receivers look kind of like good players again, and explosive players, and not a net negative that leads the Power 4 in all of drops like they did a season ago. And for the Bulldogs in this spot, you can't feel any better about Gunnar Stockton. 23 of 31, 304 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he goes down, ties the game late. I mean, holy smokes. But for Tennessee, absolute heartbreaker. Now, interestingly enough, for my fan mood assessment post-game, I don't think there's any mood change for Tennessee on my end. I know in Knoxville, I get it. I know this is a heartbreaker. You had to watch this play out. That environment was spectacular. Whenever someone mentions the 5 best environments in all of college football, I don't want them to leave Neyland Stadium out of that list. It was spectacular. I watched it on TV. I was in the car for a little while driving to my play-by-play job, and I was listening on radio, and boy, that crowd was awesome. It was spectacular. It was a great scene. The only thing that wasn't old school SEC about it is there were a bunch of points, and it's okay. It's okay. Offenses are really good now, and that's just the way that it is. So this is a game that absolutely ripped the heart out of the chests of Tennessee fans. And you know what, Tennessee? You're going to be okay. You are going to be okay. No, Joey Aguilar didn't play a perfect game. He threw 2 interceptions, only led to 3 Bulldog points. That, of course, ended up being important at the end of the game when you went to overtime. I get it. You had a field goal to win the game, and he just couldn't deliver. Your kicker couldn't make, you know what? That's college sports, unfortunately. The good news for Tennessee, and why I almost put this in the lean win vibe for Tennessee, except that it was just such a gut-wrenching loss. You know what? I haven't changed my opinion of the Vols one bit. I didn't watch that game and think, oh, Tennessee's just struggling to hang in there. Nope. When they needed a response, they had it. Joey Aguilar can run this offense as well as Nico did last year. That's the way it looks to me. He goes against the Bulldog. He made Georgia's defense look like Texas Tech's from a year ago. He made it look like it was nothing. I think it's Matt Damon, and I think it's Good Will Hunting is the movie. What, you see this? You see this right here? You have any idea how easy this is for me? This is a joke. He went for 371 and 4 touchdowns. Tennessee only ran for 125 yards. You tell me before the game that Tennessee... I need a drink of water. Hold on. I've done a lot of talking today. You tell me before the game Tennessee only runs for 125 yards. This is a rushing offense, by the way. Don't forget that. I would have thought Georgia goes in and wins by, 15, 17 points. And yet, Joey Aguilar had Tennessee marching down the field, setting up a game-winning field goal, and he missed. It sucks. Frankly, professional kickers, the same thing. And you know what? For all those that dog on, no pun intended, people that or coaches in particular that take points in a football game, where would Georgia have been if they hadn't taken the points throughout this game? Peyton Woodring, 3 of 3 on field goals with a long of 48. Absolute nails. And guess what? They go win the game by 3 points in overtime. So, coming into the year, I felt like with the Nico change, and I don't know what Aguilar is, Tennessee a little overrated there. No, that looked like one of the 20 best teams in college football. That might have looked like one of the 15 best teams in college football to me. I think their defense will play better, but Joey Aguilar showed you he's got that stuff. He can run this offense. This is working. This is clicking. The Tulane transfer, Chris Brazzell, at wide receiver, 6 for 177 and 3 touchdowns. Georgia had no answer. Other teams aren't going to either. So I still feel really good about where Tennessee is at. For Georgia on the other side, had that streak on the line there, Kirby. 9 straight SEC opening wins, and now it's 10. Wipe the sweat off the brow. But similarly to how I just described how Tennessee fans should feel about Georgia, you should feel about Gunnar Stockton down there in Athens. I bet you already do. I bet I don't have to tell you that this is a guy that just had his best game as a pro. Freudian slip right there, perhaps. But as Georgia's quarterback, by far his best, most productive game. Believe I mentioned this stat. I don't think Gunnar Stockton ever had a game where he'd thrown for 250 yards in his career. I don't think he had one. Last year he threw for 440 yards total, and he went for 190 and 227 in the first 2 games this year. Georgia figured it out. Georgia figured out how to run the football, and that is the most important revelation for the Bulldogs in this spot. They go for 173. Excuse me. I don't even know where that number came from. I just misremembered it because I had it on the other window on my laptop here. 198 yards on the ground. What do you know? In a big game, the team that runs for more yards winds up winning. Who could have possibly foreseen? Gunnar Stockton can move a little bit. Nate Frazier, 5-star running back recruit once upon a time. He looks really good. They've got a lot of guys they can give the ball to back there. Dwight Phillips was their 3rd guy, and he averaged almost 6 yards a touch. So I like where Georgia is at. I like it. I don't love it. I remember when Georgia had an elite defense, and 44 points would have meant a 20 to 30 point win. Alas, you got the win, you go on to the next one, and you get ready for Alabama. Georgia up next has got, let me just remember this off the top of my head, they do have Alabama next. They have a bye, and then they play the Crimson Tide at home. And Alabama looked good today. Alabama has looked really good the last 2 weeks after that embarrassing first game loss against Florida State. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter, all of that good stuff. Oh, no, Notre Dame. Oh. I know Tennessee fans had their hearts ripped out of their chests today. You can put Notre Dame in that same category. This would be a Tom Haverford from Parks and Rec. Oh, no, by Notre Dame. First, this episode brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward for those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more, that put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's biggest moment that moved the game forward is Gunnar Stockton's game-tying 8-point touchdown drive, capped off with a majestic touchdown to London Humphreys over the top. Second-year wide receiver transfer with the Bulldogs. My goodness, was that a beautiful ball. He hauls it in. They go to Zachariah Branch for the 2. He moved Georgia forward literally and metaphorically going down the field. And guess what? That gives Georgia a great chance to get back to the SEC championship game, which I feel like I need to remind you. They won last year. Kirby Smart, still a really good coach. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. Just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Oh no, Notre Dame. Oh no. Oh no. Oh dear. Oh dear. Did you listen to or watch my Friday show? I know many of you did. For those that didn't, allow me to recap. Notre Dame needed to win or their playoff hopes were basically shot. Well, guess what? They lost. They found a way to lose in heartbreaking, devastating, collapse-esque sort of fashion. Phrase it however you like. But you put up 40 points on your home field and it wasn't enough? What a win for Texas A&M. I will get to them, but Notre Dame's got a problem. Notre Dame does not currently have a ranked team on the schedule. They've lost to Miami by 3 points, Texas A&M by 1 point. The crazy thing is I believe there's a good football team in there for the Irish. I think they're a good team. They're clearly not a great team or they would have found a way to win at least one of these matchups. But you've got Purdue, you've got at Arkansas, Boise State, NC State, USC, Boston College, Navy, Pitt, Syracuse, Stanford. Guess what? Those sound like a bunch of winnable games, but they're not building a resume. And if those teams don't surge, Pitt lost to West Virginia today, lost to Ohio last week. I don't think Pitt's going to get there. Boise State returning to the top 25? I mean, possible, but not incredibly likely. Is Arkansas going to surprise? No, I don't think so. USC is your only hope. And guess what? One ranked win in 10-2, results still need to matter. So no, I don't think Notre Dame should make the playoff unless there is a truly shocking turnaround for several of these teams. Unless USC is a top 10 undefeated team by the time they play Notre Dame and Notre Dame cleans their clock, you're going to have some serious legwork to make up for the fact that you lost your first 2 games of the year. And with the bye week, we're going into the latter part of September and Notre Dame hasn't won a football game? Yikes. Yikes. This was a late game collapse from the Notre Dame defense. Because not only did you have multiple instances to stop Texas A&M before the 4th and goal? I mean, yikes. Marcus Freeman's a great coach. We saw that last year. He's a defensive guy. This is going to eat away at him. This is going to eat away. By the way, first over-under bet to hit on the year. Notre Dame under 10.5 wins. Hello. My picks did not have a great week this week, but that's okay. We'll bounce back next week. Anyway, what a game for Texas A&M, but what a bad game for Notre Dame. CJ Carr looks good. 293 yards, touchdown, and a pick on 20 of 32. They finally got the ball to Jeremiah Love that myself and Joel Klatt and others were clamoring for going into the game. 23 carries in this one. Well, what do you know? Your best player, one of the best players in all of college football, gets the ball more, and you put up 40 points on an SEC team that also has a defensive head coach and prides itself on that side of the ball, and yet you found a way to lose. Yikes. Just a yikes. A missed extra point? Oof! Of all the ways, ask Brian Kelly, of all the ways to lose a game, they lost to Florida State, I think it was 2 years ago, because of a missed extra point, a blocked extra point, something like that. It was craziness. It was the first game of the year. And for that to be the potential difference between Notre Dame going to the playoff and not, you had them down to a 4th and goal. Not like it was 4th and goal from the 3. It was, I just want to make sure I get the yardage correct here. But it was 4th and goal from the 11. 4th and goal from the 11, and you can't hold at home the crowd behind you. That's the letdown of all letdowns right there, unfortunately. And you know what? You weren't operating with a very big margin, and you have erased it. You've erased it. You need USC to become great. You need someone else like, I don't even know, Syracuse, I guess, or NC State. They better start surging. They better start winning a lot of games. There are just not any quality opportunities here. USC has to become great. So, yeah, season's all but over for Notre Dame. They need an outrageous amount of help, and that's why college football is great from my vantage point, because you have this level of urgency where Notre Dame can't lose 2 games in a row when they have a legitimate chance to win and still go out and be in control of their own destiny to make the playoff. So, yeah, tough times in South Bend. Outright loser vibe for the fan base in Irish country. Is there a higher vibe than Texas A&M this week? I don't know. You know what question I had about Texas A&M coming into the year? I like Texas A&M. I picked them to win, I think, 9 games coming into the year. Let me double check that real quick. But the question that I and a lot of others had about them entering the season, I had them 9-3, was how much progression can you get from Marcel Reed throwing the ball? Well, we got a pretty big answer in this game. Now, the efficiency wasn't there. Early on, Marcel Reed was throwing the ball all over the field. But when you look up at the end of the day, and he had a 200-yard receiver on Notre Dame's defense on the road, he finished 17 of 37 for 360 yards and 2 touchdowns. Whoa. In South Bend, that's not supposed to happen. Marcel Reed just did that. Texas A&M ran the ball fine. Colin Klein, really good offensive coordinator. His alma mater, Kansas State, could really use him at the moment. But Mario Craver over 200 yards receiving. KC Concepcion is making an impact. If Texas A&M is going to be able to generate a passing game like that consistently, in the SEC, they have the best passing game in the state of Texas. I'll talk about the Longhorns more tomorrow. Arch Manning, yikes. Just so much yikes. Marcel Reed, on the other hand, I still have questions out there. Like, yes, Texas A&M, you are at the high end of the spectrum. Outright winner this week. Highest of vibes for Texas A&M. Big time road win. Big time road. It doesn't matter how it looks. At this point, you just got to be able to appreciate, hey, they found a way. Yeah, the other team missed an extra point. We took advantage. And so they get a bye before SEC play begins. They take on Auburn at home. And then Mississippi State, Florida at Arkansas. Boy, it's a lot of wins. That looks like it should be a lot of wins for Texas A&M. A lot of you aren't going to be very happy that Texas A&M's finally good. Some of us looked at Mike Elko and said, hey, he's at a place that now has the resources in which you're able to go out and win. You should be good. Oh, look, Texas A&M's good. At LSU, at Missouri, South Carolina, Samford, and at Texas. There could be a lot of wins for Texas A&M. It's early. It's early. I do think Marcel Reed has to figure out how he can be more efficient as a passer. 17 to 37. I don't know how often you're going to create that many chunk explosive plays. I mean, barring injury, it's not like Mario Craver and KC Concepcion are going anywhere. But this is a significant step forward. I mean, to make that play, to have all of those moments, and still, of course, we can't forget that Marcel Reed is an excellent runner and came up with some big scrambles. So I love this for Texas A&M. You can't not love it if you're an Aggies fan. You got to feel great. And you know what? You got a very winnable slate of games coming up. It's one at a time, but you get to carry this into the bye week. High vibes in College Station. The lowest of vibes. Not the lowest. All right, Notre Dame has the lowest of vibes right now. South Carolina, low vibes. Vandy, right there at the top. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at Drip Drop. If you're trying to stay on top of your routine, whether that's workouts, long days on campus, or staying focused through back-to-back classes, hydration's where it all starts, and that is where Drip Drop comes in. I use it on the golf course a lot because when I'm out there and it's 95 to 100 degrees, I have to stay hydrated or I know that my game is going to falter, particularly on the back nine. Well, I was actually losing to a friend of mine recently, came back and tied the match on the 18th. Why? Because I'd been hydrated with Drip Drop. I didn't have a fall off. I was able to deliver in that spot, and you can too. Drip Drop is doctor developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium electrolytes and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of a leading sports drink. Right now, Drip Drop, the watermelon's great, by the way. Drip Drop's offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head to dripdrop.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's dripdrop.com. Promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard. This episode also brought to you by our friends at DoorDash. It is the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. Let's start with Marcel Reed. I'm about to think about him for the next week and the drive that he orchestrated, the play he made on 4th and goal. I mean, holy smokes. And can we talk Diego Pavia? Vanderbilt just walloped South Carolina. I'm about to talk about that game. These guys delivered for their teams, and DoorDash delivers for your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season. You could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday, and this coming Saturday, Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. Check out DoorDash today. I bet you're going to have an instinct to dog on this result from Vanderbilt. 31-7 over South Carolina. How important is LaNorris Sellers? How important can one quarterback be for a team? I present to you 31-7 in Columbia. Rank Vanderbilt. There is no way, even with Sellers going out, there is no way you could possibly justify not ranking Vanderbilt inside the top 20. I understand that there's going to be a hesitation. There's going to be a desire, an instinct from people to just shout down, no, it's Vanderbilt. No, LaNorris Sellers went out of the game. No. 31-7 is more than just a quarterback not being there. Does LaNorris Sellers play defense? Nope. Could he help sustain some drives perhaps to make the defense less tired? Sure. Maybe they hold Vanderbilt to another field goal. But Vanderbilt was a better football team. They just were. And you know what? Good for the Commodores. Vibes, high. Vibes absolutely high. As high as it goes. Vanderbilt's an outright winner this week. And I only put South Carolina in the lean-lose department. Because you know what? If LaNorris Sellers can come back this year, you could still accomplish all of your goals. It's still within reach. This is a disappointing outcome. I think you would have hoped that your defense could pull you through a bit on your home field, and instead they gave up a 31-piece to Vanderbilt. But look, Diego Pavia doesn't always put up the best numbers, but he's just got a moxie about him. He's just got a winning attitude about him. Vanderbilt was 50% on 3rd down in this game, 101 on 4th down. There really weren't that many yards. South Carolina actually outgained Vanderbilt in this one. But again, I go back to, this is a Vanderbilt team that they just win. They're playing winning football. They are 3-0. And the Commodores should not be overlooked. They're going to win their next 2 games. Are you ready for 5-0 ranked Vanderbilt? Remember, this is a Vanderbilt team that last week went on the road to Blacksburg, played a Power 4 opponent, Virginia Tech, and in the second half went on a 34-0 run. They were down 10 at the half, 34-0 run. Okay. Now they just went on the road to the number 11 team in the country, and they beat them 31-7. LaNorris Sellers does not play defense. Vanderbilt's just a good football team. It's difficult to accept. It's difficult to wrap your head around. But guess what? They play Georgia State and Utah State at home for their next 2 games. They're going to have a couple wins, and then they play the meat of their schedule. Alabama, LSU, Missouri, Texas, Auburn, Kentucky, Tennessee. And then we'll see where they can go. But you know what? Diego Pavia gave a, shall we call it, Thomas Castellanos-esque sort of quote in the offseason. He wanted to come back to Vanderbilt, get an extra year of eligibility, which he got from the NCAA. Why? Because he said, I want to go win an SEC championship. I want to go win a national championship. Well, you may have heard that and thought, he's just talking. It's just words. It's just Diego Pavia. He's cool. He's fun, whatever. Well, here's Vanderbilt. How would you feel? Like, I've had to make this example a couple times throughout the week because it can be difficult. I made this point when talking about Arizona, and then, of course, I didn't follow my own advice, and I picked Kansas State to win the game like a fool because Kansas State's apparently this year's Florida State. But Arizona played their first 2 games and looked really impressive in all facets against 2 inferior opponents. And I said, all right, Arizona does that. You're going to brush it off. What if a preseason perceived contender had done that? Would you not then feel justified in having confidence in them going forward? So if LaNorris Sellers does go out of the game, and this is being played in Columbia, what if Tennessee were in South Carolina and won 31-7? What if Ole Miss won this game in South Carolina 31-7? What if Alabama did it? It would be Bama is back. Look at what they did. I don't think because of the Sellers injury, you can confirm immediately, Vanderbilt is a contender. You have to at least be able to look at them and respect them and understand that they were a 7-6 team last year, brought back a good amount of that production, including but not limited to their head coach and their quarterback. Good starting point, unless you're Clemson, of course. Good starting point. And Diego Pavia's got that locker room playing with a different type of momentum. And this is another thing I thought about while I was driving home from the game I was calling about Vanderbilt. When a coach has the opportunity to go to a school that's been a bottom feeder, like Vanderbilt, there are always people that ask, why would you take that job? Who wants that job? Clark Lee is showing you. Kurt Cignetti at Indiana has shown you. And whoever turns around UCLA one day will also show you that if you've actually got what it takes and you have an actually high level of self-belief about your values as a coach and how you can translate that onto the field, then you can go and succeed anywhere. And Clark Lee is succeeding at Vanderbilt again. He's going to be 5-0 with an SEC slate coming up. That's awesome stuff. Vanderbilt fans, whoever they are out there, absolutely deserve it. How could they not? Now for South Carolina. LaNorris Sellers better get healthy. Because no, I don't believe, frankly, based on how this game played out, I think Vanderbilt wins even if LaNorris Sellers plays. I do. And that's not going to be a very popular opinion. That's fine. I'm okay with that. I will still sleep just fine tonight. I do not believe that South Carolina's offense would have had just 7 points. So that tells me that pretty clearly Luke Doty is not going to lead you to where you had the potential to go before this season began. And if Sellers comes back, hey, you can still get there. It's a lot tougher, but you can still get there. 9-3 SEC, didn't get in last year. Maybe it does this year. Maybe Sellers comes back, you get on a roll, you finish 10-2. Or this might wind up being the lost season for South Carolina, the one that could have been if our quarterback hadn't gotten hurt. Or if our defense had been able to give us a better performance against Vanderbilt. That is where this is at for South Carolina. I think it's only one of those two directions. I don't think that Doty's going to be able to turn him around. I'm happy to be proven wrong. He might have a chance. I hope he doesn't, because we want to watch LaNorris Sellers play football. He's awesome. He's a really exciting, fun, dynamic player to watch at the quarterback position, and it would stink if he's out the rest of the year or if he's in and out a bunch the rest of the season, but that's the way that this feels for South Carolina. With this game, with the schedule they still have going forward, remember, it's tough. It is really, really tough for South Carolina. They have got Missouri on the road next week, and Missouri has looked good. Bo Pribula has looked great so far. Kentucky then, that shouldn't be hard. LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas A&M. And they still have to play Clemson, but Clemson doesn't actually look very good at the moment. So if he's not able to come back from the concussion, could just wind up being a lost season for South Carolina. And I would hate that for the Gamecocks. I really would. I do love this for Vanderbilt, though. Clark Lee and the boys, they are rolling. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.